Good afternoon and welcome to the Getting to Know Wayne County Series virtual town hall meeting. Today we will be featuring Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy. My name is Michael Richard. I'm the legislative aide for Wayne County Commissioner Monique McCormick. If you'd like to participate in the conversation or have any questions for the commissioner or for the prosecutor, you may type them into the chat room box on Zoom, or you can email us direct at bakermccormickstaff@waynecounty.com. That's Baker McCormick Staff, one word, at waynecounty.com. At this time, I'd like for you to put your phone or computer on mute to deaden any background noise that we may have. I'd like to introduce to you now Wayne County Commissioner for the 6th District, Monique Baker McCormick. Commissioner.
Yes. All right. Thank you all for attending our first virtual town hall, which is called Getting to Know Wayne County series. We decided to start this series because the question that we would get all the time is, what does Wayne County really do? And so we began with our first Getting to Know Wayne County series, or part one was with our Wayne County Treasurer, and this is actually part two with our Wayne County Prosecutor, Kim Worthy. We thank you so much for agreeing to come on today. Kim Worthy is the current prosecutor of Wayne County, and she was the first African American to serve as the county prosecutor in Michigan. So I'd like to welcome Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy.
Hello. As you probably saw in the background, I moved to a different room that had better lighting so you can see better. It's my pleasure to be here, Commissioner Baker McCormick. I think what you're doing is so important because people do sometimes not know what we all do. And so it's very important to do that. And so there's a number of topics I would like to speak with you about tonight. And I want to start out by just welcoming you here. And hopefully we can take some questions if there's time. But I really want to start out by talking about domestic violence. One of the things that I was very concerned about when this pandemic hit, and we had to follow the governor's executive orders and stay-at-home orders, is that incidents of domestic violence would peak. And because people are in the same house together, in many cases, the abusers are living 24/7 with their abusers. But before I even get into that, I want to call on Tricia Powell from my office, who is the head of the domestic violence, and she supervises the domestic violence and the child abuse units. And I just want to have her give you a little overview of the unit, and then I'll follow up with some specifics. Tricia? If you can hear me, you can just go ahead and start talking. She might be on mute. Well, while we're getting together, let me just say that our office does about 8,000 cases of domestic violence per year. We bring it in. We have the different police departments and different agencies that we deal with. We have 43 cities, townships, and municipalities in Wayne County, and each of them has a police chief and a separate force, and we also deal with some other entities as well. And when a situation of domestic violence happens, they will prepare the case and bring it to us. And last year in 2019, we received 8,800 cases of domestic violence per year that year. So we didn't issue all those cases, but we issued about 3,800 or so of them, which is still a lot. They're not confined to any one city. They're not confined to any one place. And we get a lot of those cases, and we have been especially concerned, like I said, during the COVID. So I don't know if Tricia can get on yet. I just want to
I
there you go.
believe I'm here. Okay. Excuse me, I'm technologically challenged. I'm sorry you can't see my face here, but hopefully you can hear my voice. Thank you, Prosecutor Worthy. You gave yourself away that you've known me a long time because you referred to me as Tricia Powell, which is my main name. Yes. I'm now Tricia Gerard, so don't be confused, Commissioner. I am honored to run the domestic violence unit and also the child abuse unit for Prosecutor Worthy at the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. What's important about the domestic violence unit is that of the 8,800 cases that Prosecutor Worthy indicated we reviewed, those are only intimate partner domestic violence cases, which means that that doesn't include siblings. It does not include parents and children. It does not include roommates. It just includes those people who have an underlying intimate relationship, that live together, have ever lived together, are married now, were ever married, have a child in common, or have or had a dating relationship. So domestic violence itself covers the siblings and the parents and people who live together, but we have carved out a subsection of just intimate partner domestic violence, which I think is the category that people mostly think of when they hear the words domestic violence. Our unit currently is staffed with just about 10 full-time assistant prosecuting attorneys that devote all of their time to handling the intimate partner domestic violence cases in the county. We work 7 days a week, 365 days a year, reviewing in custody warrants. As Prosecutor Worthy indicated, with the current pandemic and the COVID-19 crisis, we've been keeping a very close eye on our numbers, and we haven't as yet seen a spike. However, it's my opinion, based on conversations I've had with other professionals in this field across the country and the research I've done, that likely the spike is going to come as we slowly start opening our country back up. And now victims of domestic violence are in a position to try to leave their abusers. And the most dangerous time for victims of domestic violence is when they try to leave. So this pandemic has presented quite an interesting dynamic, and we are all holding our breath, hoping that we don't see that spike in cases as the country starts to open up. But rest assured that Prosecutor Worthy is keeping a very close eye on this.
All right, thank you very much. And so we have seen a slight spike in child abuse cases again. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about child abuse today, but just to say, when the children were at home from school since March, usually we get reporting that comes from teachers or neighbors or other family members outside the home if they are being abused in the home. And so again, we are watching very closely. We think that when children, if they return to school in the fall, and I hope that they do, being a parent who had to homeschool the last couple of months, then we will see more reporting. But we have seen an uptick in the violence of the child abuse kind of cases that we've seen. And so we do have a unit called the Special Victims Unit. That unit handles the domestic violence, as you've heard Ms. Gerard talk about. It handles the child abuse. It handles the sexual assault rape kit issue. It also handles the sexual assault team that does all of the sexual assaults outside of the rape kit project that we've talked about for many years. It also handles animal abuse, because if you look at family violence, a lot of times the abuser will threaten to hurt the family pet, and they use that as a means to control the person who's being abused as well. So I want to kind of move on. And also, something also very important, if you go to our Facebook page, our office Facebook page, if you are a victim of domestic violence, you will see all kinds of resources that you can see and you can turn to. The shelters and the services are still available, even during these pandemic times. So again, if you need services or you need information, please go to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office Facebook page. And there's Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, Michigan, because there's another Wayne County, I believe, in Ohio. But it's Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, Michigan, and you will see the resources and the contact person. I know the commissioner is very passionate about domestic violence, and we are hoping to work with her even closer on this issue. I want to move on to talking about our conviction integrity unit. I have been trying to get a conviction integrity unit in the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office for over 7 years. And finally, the commissioners, and I'm so grateful every day that they funded this unit. We opened it up 2.5 years ago. I hired a woman who really had been my nemesis for years, and we disagreed about cases sometimes, but she was one of the foremost experts in finding and investigating wrongful convictions. And the unit is set up because we will investigate any case that has a credible claim of new evidence. And we have hundreds and hundreds of cases that we've looked at, and we investigate hundreds of cases per year. These cases are very, very investigative intensive. Sometimes we're looking at cases that happened over decades ago. We have the unpleasant distinction in Michigan here in Wayne County, having the person by the name of Richard Phillips, who was the first person we exonerated. And he's the longest serving person that served time in prison for a time. Oh, you didn't hear anything that I said? Oh my goodness. We have now, we went on to talk about, since I'm gonna back up some, since apparently I was muted. And so I'm gonna back up a little bit and just finish off with domestic violence. If you are a victim of domestic violence and you need help and you need services, please go to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office Facebook page. We have all kinds of services for you. We can help you. And these services—
Madam Prosecutor.
Yes.
Excuse me. Yes, we did mute everyone except you, and so that's what you heard. But we heard most of you, most of what you said. Thank you.
So I'll just get back over that. I didn't know how far I had to go back, but I don't. So I'll continue talking about the Conviction Integrity Unit.
Yes.
Mr. Phillips is the one that we exonerated. That was our first exoneree case. A lot of investigation took place, and he had served time in prison for 45 years for a crime he did not commit, a murder. And so it took me a long time to get this unit. The commissioners graciously have funded it to the tune of about $750,000 a year. I am seeking now to completely expand that unit because we have hundreds and hundreds of cases that we'd like to investigate. In the 2.5-year period, and this is extraordinary from what the national statistics will say, we have exonerated or agreed to new trials for 20 different people. And so I haven't then gone back and added up the years that they served, but no prosecutor's office, in my opinion, should be afraid to examine their own convictions. Most of these cases go back decades and decades and decades. And so they're very hard to investigate. We have to get materials. Sometimes these files no longer exist. Sometimes the evidence that we need to review these cases does not exist. And so we work very hard and we investigate these cases to make sure that we are investigating any claim, any new claim of innocence. And so again, we're very proud of this unit. It's difficult to have this unit inside prosecutors' offices, but it's something that we must do. And oftentimes, most of the time, it's not the fault of any prosecutor. Oftentimes they come from police investigations, but we also see information that wasn't available at the time this conviction had. For example, some of the forensic evidence and the DNA evidence that we can use if we can find the evidence that exists, they didn't have the science back when people were convicted. And so now we go back and look at all of these cases from all aspects. It is not unusual in these cases to have boxes and boxes and boxes of information, whether the person has been previously trying to appeal. We go back and we go through the original trial transcript. So it's an incredible amount of work. And we are seeking to expand that unit. Now I know that the county is having some difficulty because of all counties, all government entities, all entities across the country because of COVID. And so we're still hoping to at least get more funding for that in the near future. So again, if you know someone that has a credible claim of new innocence, then make sure you contact our office, go to our office website, and it can tell you the form you have to fill out to get the investigation going. I wanna go and give a rape kit update. As you know, I hope everybody knows that we, back in 2009, in August of 2009, my office discovered during an audit of Detroit Police Department headquarters, we found headquarters, an annex to where they were keeping property, what we now know to be 11,341 untested abandoned rape kits, sexual assault kits. Now, again, I have to give my hat off to the commissioners in Wayne County because they have provided funding for this. We started this project back in 2009. And at the time that we started this project, when these kits were found by a member of my office, I was, of course, very distraught. The city of Detroit, because these were Detroit cases, was 4 years away from the largest municipal bankruptcy in the history of the United States. The county of Wayne at that time, this is before we had the current CEO, Warren Evans, before his tenure as county executive, we were having all kinds of issues financially. So the county wasn't doing well at all. And back then in 2009, it cost anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 to test a single rape kit. So we're talking about millions and millions, $12 to $15 million just to get started. Well, we didn't have that money. And so I said three things at the time these kits were discovered. Number one, after we were all shocked and appalled, I had no idea that this was a national pandemic. And I don't use that word lightly. I had no idea, because I think it's a health crisis. I had no idea that people would stockpile rape kits. None of us had any idea that this would be the case. And when I went home, when we first found out back in August of 2009, I did a quick Google search. I found out that there were hundreds of thousands of untested rape kits in different police storage facilities across the country. Now, to give you a visual, all of you are familiar, of course, with the Big House, University of Michigan's football stadium. And you know that on any given football Saturday, that stadium to its capacity can hold over 100,000 people. So it is estimated that in this country, there are about 400,000 untested abandoned rape kits. So if you attach a victim to each one of those kits, you can fill up the Big House 4 times with victims whose kits have been not looked at and untested. That's an amazing graphic, that many sexual assault victims had their kits sitting on the shelf. Now, our oldest case goes back probably now 40 years, because again, we've been working on this. This is our 11th year working on this. And I am very happy with the results, but it was very hard to get this off the ground. We didn't have a lot of help. It was really a couple of things that really got us started. And one was I had a chance meeting with Mariska Hargitay, who is the star of Law & Order SVU, the longest running character on a TV series. And the late Congressman Conyers had heard that we were trying to work on these kits. And he called me and he said, you know, I want you to come to Washington and testify. And when I did go to Washington and testify, that's where I met Mariska, and I asked her, you've got to help us raise some money for these kits. You've got to help us with this issue, because she, of course, was an advocate for rape kits even before we got started. And so she was able to provide some funding for us. And then also the Obama administration and then Vice President Biden helped us a great deal get funding, as well as the then Attorney General Eric Holder. And so they made it their business to assist us monetarily. We received a very large grant, and that it was able to get us started. So skipping ahead now, 11 years, I am happy to say that all the kits are now tested. It took, almost a decade to get them all tested. And now we have, I want to give you the latest update. We have convicted over 211, I think it's 215 defendants for sexual assault. These are 215 plus rapists that are now off the streets of Detroit. Now, it's important to note that when we started studying these kits, 86%, over 86% of the victims in these cases were women of color. And why is that? There are many different reasons why. But basically, if you have blonde hair and blue eyes, your rape gets investigated properly and solved. It's just a sad reality. And so over 86% of these kits belong to men, women, and children of color. So we're very, very glad to bring justice to these victims, these survivors. And the other thing that I want you to know about this as well is we have identified over 820 identified serial rapists just within our project in one city, in one county, in one state. Why is that significant? Because we have over 800 people, over 820 people that have raped within our project more than once. So we certainly don't get most rapists. Most rapists rape between 7 and 11 times before they get caught, if they get caught. And remember, not all people who are sexually assaulted, women, I'll say women, but we're talking about children and men too. Not all women who are sexually assaulted report. It's really the lowest reported crime. And not all those who report go and have a rape kit done. So just to explain, every rape kit is barcoded, so we know what the number is. Every kit has all different kinds of materials. And the reason why a woman will go and get a rape kit done is they want to help. Hopefully there's enough evidence contained in that kit for the forensic scientist to make a profile, a genetic profile, to enter into the DNA database. And so every orifice of the woman is poked and prodded from the mouth to the ears, to the breast, to the vagina, the anus, everything, for hairs, fibers, semen, saliva, and all of this is collected off of her body during a 4 to 10 hour examination after she's been sexually assaulted and put into this kit for the forensic scientists to examine. And generally, we're looking for 2 different types of CODIS hits or DNA hits. If a profile, if there's enough to make a profile and is entered into the system, sometimes it'll give you the name of the person that genetic material belongs to. Sometimes it will give us what we call a case-to-case association. What that means is if there's a sexual assault that happens in Detroit and there's enough genetic profile to enter that DNA profile into CODIS, the DNA system, and there's another sexual assault that occurs in Arizona, and again, there's a rape kit done and enough genetic material that comes from that rape kit to enter it into the system, and they match. So we know we have a rapist in Arizona and one in Detroit that's the same person, but we just don't know who it belongs to. So then we have a lot of work to do. So again, I'm happy to just say again publicly that the Wayne County Commission has supported this effort for the last, since the CEO has been in office. Commissioner Baker McCormick has been a staunch advocate of bringing justice to these women. And again, we have some children and some men. And that, I just want you to know that this Wayne County Commission and this particular commission, your commissioner, has been very, very supportive of this effort. The last thing I want to say about that is that the testing that has happened from our kits, from the testing from the rape kits that were found in Detroit back in '09, has led to connections to crime scenes in 39 other states. So there are only 10 states in the United States of America that have not been affected or were not affected by the kits that were found here in Detroit. So again, I want to thank the commissioners and everybody that supported us, the state of Michigan, who provided funding about 4 years into the project to get the rest of them tested, and so many partners from, I don't want to start naming people, but we had so many partners in this case, all in this project, all up and down the aisle, that allowed us to get everything done. And of course, I cannot go on without mentioning my staff who works on these cases daily, every day. So thank you to everybody. We got donations from all 50 states and 9 foreign countries to support our project so we can get the kids tested. And it's just been a long road. And we probably have about another 3 years before we continue to get through all these kits. And I also want to talk a little bit about elder abuse. You know, today is Worldwide Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So June 15th is Worldwide Elder Abuse Awareness Day. When I started when I first came into the office as the Wayne County prosecutor, you know, I started out as an assistant prosecutor in the office, went to be a recorder's court judge, and then a Wayne County Circuit Court judge, and became your prosecutor in 2004. And one of the first things that I did when I came in, aside the diversion and restorative justice programs that we had back then, which I'll talk about in a minute, but one of the first things that we did is make an elder abuse unit. My previous boss, when I was an assistant prosecutor in this office, was a man named John O'Hare, who I don't know if he started the first child abuse unit or it was one of the few in the United States at that time, and that was in the late 80s. And the reason why you have these units that deal with specific people, especially in family violence and homicide cases and other cases, is because you want the same prosecutor to look at these cases. So for example, if you have a 7-year-old girl child who has been molested, and this happens by her uncle, her father, the neighbor down the street, a teacher, and 7 years old. And this 7-year-old finally gets the courage. Remember, most adult women don't report. So this 7-year-old child finally gets the courage to report her sexual assault, to report her molestations. And she reports, let's say, to a teacher or another family member. And that teacher or family member takes her to the hospital or takes her to the police station. Sometimes they go to the police station first, sometimes maybe to the hospital first. We don't want that child to talk to all these different people. And so we have what's called family centers, where we'll have someone come in, a forensic examiner who'll come in and talk to the child, and everybody else, all the other stakeholders will listen, so that child only has to recount things just a few times. But the same thing goes if we decide to issue charges in those cases. We want to make sure that this child only talks to one prosecutor. So the same prosecutor that does the original interview of this child, who makes a determination about whether he or she is going to charge the defendant that the child mentions, is the same prosecutor that does all the pretrial work, is the same prosecutor that does the trial, is the same prosecutor that keeps in contact with that child, in addition to an advocate, a children's advocate that works with that child as well. And so that's why we have, vertical prosecutions. The same person does every layer of the prosecution process. And so when I came into the office, we had a child abuse unit, we had a domestic violence unit, but there was a segment of the population that was just not covered. And that were our elders, our seniors. And so one of the first things that we did is we formed an elder abuse unit. I can't claim to be the first one in the country. I can claim to be the first one in the state of Michigan to have a conviction integrity unit. But we're certainly most active. We're the most active elder abuse unit in the state. And we thought when we formed this unit, and we would dedicate our time and energy to people over the age of 65 that had crimes committed against them. And I thought we would be spending most of our time doing homicides or seniors that were carjacked, or seniors that were robbed, or seniors that had their houses broken into, or seniors that were sexually assaulted, or seniors that were assaulted in nursing homes, for example. And we do get that. But what we found is that a lot of our cases were financial exploitation cases. And I talked about this earlier when I did a presentation because of World Elder Abuse Day that I'm talking about now. And I talked about how an awful lot of our cases are, in some years, the majority of our cases in some years, are cases where a senior, whether their life savings is $5 or $5 million, has been taken away from them or stolen. And remember, a lot of our seniors may not even know that they have been victims because they have dementia or Alzheimer's. And so we have specially trained prosecutors who do these cases, and they're the same prosecutor that deals with the senior. But we have some cases where people get sick, et cetera. But for the most part, we have the same prosecutor that will deal with this case all the way through the system. And so a lot of financial exploitation. We do have a lot of robberies and assaults. And we try to do these cases and be as diligent as we can doing these cases and representing our seniors. And so it's a unit that I'm very proud of. It's a unit that's very, very necessary. And a unit that we have a hard time funding, but we keep going. We keep going with our cases, and we keep serving our seniors once they've been assaulted or once they have had their fortune stolen, either by an adult child or another parent, or by a home health care worker, or whoever who has access to their particular funds. We also spend a lot of time in our elder abuse unit educating people about scams that are run on seniors. And during this time of the year, we get particularly concerned because we have a lot of people coming wanting to do do work on houses where they know seniors live, or mow their grass, or take down trees, or do other things for them, and then take their money and never come back, or they're involved in a scam. We get concerned about scams where a person will befriend a senior, and then they'll take them to the bank and help them with their chores and help them with their errands. And then they'll take them to the bank, and then they will, the senior will sign over their funds at the bank to whoever this person is. We see a lot of that. And so again, these are also cases that are hard to do because, like I said before, we have many of our seniors who are sick. Now is a time we're particularly concerned because we can't get into the senior facilities and not only educate them, but to talk to them about elder abuse. So we're hoping that once we're able to do that again, we will be able to make sure that they understand and tell them what to look for. Tell family members what to look for when your senior may be being physically abused. Tell families what to look for, the signs to look for when they may be being mentally abused, things to look for when they're being emotionally abused, things to look for when they're being sexually abused. And we educate a lot of people on that. So if at any time we can prevent people from being victims, we'd like to do that rather than seeing them be victims later on. So another thing that I also want to talk about today is our treatment courts that we're involved in, that the Wayne County Prosecutor is involved in. Wayne County has 24 treatment courts, and these courts include mental health courts. They include a homelessness court. We have a homelessness court in Detroit. It includes sobriety court for people with issues with their alcohol abuse. We have drug courts for people who have issues with drugs, and we have veterans court as well. And so we are very, very involved in these treatment courts in Wayne County. It takes a lot of time. But again, we believe if someone has an underlying problem, an underlying issue, that either caused them getting involved in crime in the first place, and we can address these issues, we hope that people would not come back to us again. So again, there are many very dedicated judges in the district courts across Wayne County, as well as in 36th District Court and in Third Circuit Court, the trial court, that are committed to providing these services, and we're an integral part of that. And kind of the last thing I want to talk about is, and I can talk about many issues, and I want to talk a little bit about police brutality, even though it wasn't on the agenda. But the last thing I want to talk about is our diversion programs that we started doing back in 2004, 2005. By the end of my first year as Wayne County prosecutor, back before prosecutors across the country were doing what they're doing now, before anyone had the attitude that prosecutors would really be involved in prevention, before people really had the attitude that locking people up wasn't the only solution, we were doing these things in 2005 before most people were doing them. And my office was ostracized for taking this tack. We were accused of being social workers, of not being tough on crime. We were accused of all kinds of things because we were interested in addressing people's issues, because we were interested in diverting people out of the criminal justice system. So we had, at one time when they were funded, we had over 15 different diversion programs. I want to just talk about a couple of them that we had and that we still have. We have our teen court, that's designed for lower level felonies that youth under the age of 17, they may commit a theft or stealing a car, or not the assaultive cases, but the other cases that very much a lot of teens are arrested for. And so we formed the teen court. I believe we formed it in 2005, 2006, and we had funding from the state. There was a pass-through funding. It started with the state and passed through to the county. And the whole idea of the teen court was not only to put a very compassionate spin on crime that juveniles commit, but also to educate other teens about the criminal justice system. So we came up with teen court. And we worked with and we still do, with the civics or government classes for the schools that are still teaching that. And we come into the schools, we educate them about the criminal justice system, and then we select them to be jurors. And we work in conjunction with different courts as well, juvenile court, of course. And if the person that's accused of a crime then admits responsibility, then it's the teen court that will legally decide what the sentence would be. I want to tell you a quick story. We had one case many years ago where a student, a young woman, 15 or 16 years old, had been given money by her parents to go to the mall and purchase her gown, her dress, her purse, her accessories for the prom. And so instead of using her parents' money to do so, she decided to steal the items. And she was arrested and brought down to juvenile court for retail fraud or shoplifting. And so she did admit responsibility before a juvenile court judge. She said that she did it. She didn't take it seriously at all. She thought it was kind of a joke. And so we convened a teen court. And again, everybody was in high school age in the jury. We set it up, we did the hearing, and when you have a teen court hearing, the parents have to come, and these teen jurors, these teenagers can ask the person that's been charged with the crime anything they want. And oftentimes parents at these hearings find out all kinds of things about their children. So when it became time for the teen jury to issue their verdict was something that no adult would have thought of. And that was that she couldn't go to the prom. And she was bound by that. She could not go to the prom. She literally fell out and started hooping and hollering in the courtroom because she wanted to go to the prom very badly, but she couldn't. That was her sentence. And so we enjoy having many voices when it comes to creative sentencing ideas, and that's what the teen court is designed to do. We also have a court that deals with domestic violence, juveniles that are convicted of domestic violence, getting them services, because we didn't want our young domestic batterers, and some at a very low age, to then traverse that bridge to adult criminality when it comes to domestic violence. So we were doing many cases before anyone in the country was thinking about them. So I'm happy to report that now, over the years, and the numbers are higher now, but I'll be conservative, we have diverted over 6,000 youth out of the juvenile justice system. There are over 6,000 youth over the years that we did not charge. Instead, we got them services, and the recidivism rate, the return rate was very, very low. So over 6,000 youth we've diverted from the criminal justice system. Conversely, in the adult system, the diversion program that I didn't create, I can't take credit for creating it. We had it there when I was an assistant prosecutor in the office, but it was stopped by my predecessor, by the person who was a prosecutor before me, just completely stopped that program. And one of the reasons why is because you don't get credit for your conviction numbers, because you are diverting people. They are not going to have charges. And so we revitalized that program. I'm happy to say that as of a few months ago, we successfully diverted over 5,440 adults out of the criminal justice system. They worked, we put them on probation. Of course, we work in conjunction with defense attorneys and the judge, of course. And so they are placed on diversion programs, usually for first-time offenses and for lower-level offenses. And so we work with them. They have traditional probation conditions that they must complete, including making victims whole. Those that can afford it, you can still be in the program. If you can't afford to pay your victim back, you can still be in the program. And then at the end of a year, usually, if it's successfully completed, then they don't have a record. And so we're very proud. And like I said, we had over 15 of them. We probably have about a good 5 or 6 now because we lost the funding for most of them, but we have managed to scrape and get most of them back. We want to scrape and get most of them back, and then we're creating new options all the time. Also in our juvenile court, we have mediated services, and we're looking at expanding these mediated services. And what that means is, if a youth is involved in a smaller level crime and the victim wants to cooperate with us, and we try to convince them that they can, we partner with Wayne County Mediation Services, and they literally mediate between the defendant and the victim, and a solution that is outside of being charged. And again, they have to complete. So if they're ordered by the mediator, for example, and the victim agrees to pay back restitution or get counseling or if they have mental health issues or drug issues or alcohol issues, they have to get those services. And whatever, the parents, of course, are involved with these youth. And again, these mediated services determine what they have to do, and they are not charged at the end of that process either. We're working on a program that is, it also is kind of a real restorative justice program. It's kind of been derailed during the COVID times. And what we hope to do is people who do go through the system for a more serious crime, for example, an assaultive crime, again, this is all, we bring the victim into it. And what we're setting up now and working with some service providers now, and we haven't launched it yet. We wanted to launch it by the beginning of the summer, but of course we got derailed. So this hopefully will launch, I hope this fall is what I'm hoping, if we can get past the COVID issues and where people can have in-person meetings again without endangering their health. And what will happen is, again, a mediator and the respondent or the defendant will meet with the victim. And the idea is to keep them from re-engaging in the criminal justice system. So what we would like the victim to do is tell the person that committed the crime, you carjacked my car. As a result, I could not afford to get a new car. As a result, I lost my job because I couldn't get transport. I couldn't get to work. I was able to work a good distance from my home with a good job because I had a working car that I could rely on. And as a result of that, I suffered trauma. I wasn't able to work anyway. And we just want you to know how your crime affected me, what it did. And our hope is that when we have this mediated situation, that it will hopefully get to the person that has been in trouble for committing the crime, and they won't recommit if they see that their actions had a real human aspect to it. And so that's our hope. We're also working on a prosecutorial dashboard so we can have more transparency where people can see what's going on. We try to work very hard for transparency. We have town halls, we've done citizens academies, we've done a lot of those, and probably about close to 1,000 people, I don't know the exact number, but hundreds of people, let me just say, have passed through our citizen academies. We have press releases, we put them on our website. But again, we're working on, some offices have what's called a prosecutorial dashboard where people have more access and quicker access. We're working on that. And so there are a number of things that we're working on. One of the things that I've been trying to do since I became the prosecutor in 2004 is it's very similar to our teen court. It's called community court. We haven't been able to get it funded, and this is why we haven't done this yet, but I'm going to try again this year in earnest. And what community court is, we'll take a pilot or 2 pilot places in Detroit, one inside Detroit and one outside Detroit, one outside the city of Detroit. And we'll pick a neighborhood, for example, that suffers perhaps from a certain ill, like they have just a whole lot of auto thefts, or they have a whole lot of vandalism. And so a whole lot of destruction of property, or even some lower assaultive crimes. And they're just having a problem. The residents of that community are just getting hit by things every day. And so what the community court does is, again, that we certainly charge the person that's responsible for whatever it is, whether it's breaking into houses or vandalizing cars or any number of lower level crimes. And what we hope to do is we want to train members of that community, members of the community where this crime happened, that's being victimized. We want to train them to be, in essence, jurors, and they will decide what the punishment will be. Not jail or prison, but what specific punishment there will be. For instance, you will cut the lawns of every senior that lives in this neighborhood. You will wash the cars of certain people in this neighborhood. You will clear brush from different houses or cut tall grass so our children can travel safely to school. You will help us with the problems that we're having in the neighborhood, and that will be your sentence. No jail or no prison, but that will be your sentence, to help us clean up this neighborhood, to help this be a safe health that you took from us. Now we want you to give back to us. We want you want us to give back to you. And so that's something else that I've been trying to get funded for about 10 years now, but I have not been able, I've been able to get a lot of things funded, but I haven't been able to get that funded yet. So those are just a few of the initiatives that we're working on. Of course, there's many more things that we could talk about. We could talk about our Fair Michigan project, which is the first unit in the entire country, the first of its kind that I co-created with our Attorney General, Dana Nessel. It's a unit that deals specifically with crimes against the LGBTQ community. And so again, this happened because I was extremely upset maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, maybe longer, because there were 6 African-American trans women that were killed in Palmer Park, Palmer Park, and no one was doing anything about it. These murders were going unsolved, and just no one was doing anything. And so I called up our now Attorney General, who was a practicing defense attorney at that time, and I said, we got to do something about this. Can you help me? This is the issue. Can you help me? And within 24 hours, she had come up with the concept of Fair Michigan. So, and that's our project, first in its kind in the country. And I still think we're the only ones that are doing this, paying particular attention to those issues. And so again, I could go on. We're doing a lot of work and just give me the high sign when you want me to stop talking. We're doing a lot of work now, myself personally doing a lot of work now along with my staff in decreasing the jail population due to COVID. And since March, when we first started, we were doing it before March and before COVID. I became more personally involved in March because of the urgency of getting people out of the jail because of COVID and the possibility of getting COVID. So when we started doing this work with the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, with Wayne County Medical, with the Chief Judge of the Third Circuit Court, with attorneys for the inmates, we started looking at these cases one by one. And we went through from misdemeanors, letting them out, to people with cancer or HIV/AIDS or hypertension or asthma that were having, cardiac issues, that were having issues. We took a hard look at those cases. And not everybody was let out. If you were charged with criminal sexual conduct in the first degree or homicide or the more serious crimes, there was less of a chance that you were going to get out. But again, everyone serving on the weekends or misdemeanors or ordinance violations or lower level felonies have really basically been released from the jail or put on a tether. I think the Sheriff's Department, I know that I'm accurate when I say there are over 1,000 people now on tether and being monitored because they were administrative released from the jail by Judge Kinney. And we went from 1,388 people in the jail in the beginning of March down to just hovering above and below 800. So the jail population due to COVID has been decreased by 40%. And that's one of the highest rates in the country. So again, I'm going to stop now. I think I've run my time over. I know there's some more of the agenda. And so I will turn it back to our commissioner.
Muted. Thank you, Madam Prosecutor, for all of that valuable information. And if anyone wants to ask any questions of the prosecutor, since we have a smaller group, I will open it up for any questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Hey there. Thank you so much for doing this, Monique. This is great.
No problem.
And thank you, Prosecutor Worthy. Michael Henry, just had 2 quick questions. One, a number of prosecutors are, progressive prosecutors around the country are talking about not asking for cash bail. Just want to know your stance on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to tell you my stance on that. And you know, it's funny because they didn't call it progressive prosecution when we were doing this back in 2005, but that's a good name. We were calling ourselves Change the Culture of Violence prosecutors at the time. I do not believe that anyone should be in jail solely because they cannot pay their bail. When people say no cash bail, they think it means nobody can have a cash bail, even if you're charged with first-degree murder or criminal sexual conduct. And I do not believe that anyone should be in jail solely because they cannot pay for their bail. That's unfair, and that is a different standard for different people. So I certainly believe that if you are in jail for an ordinance violation or a misdemeanor or a lower level felony, I do not have any problem with not having cash bail. And so my problem is when we have the highly assaultive crimes and when people are dangerous to the community, I do not think that should be an option. So that's my position. So and I also think, let me add one more thing. I also think that the ability to pay should be a part of the equation, not just the nature of the crime, not just what they're charged with, but the ability to pay should be part of the equation. You are not the same if you have a salary job for a Fortune 500, I'm exaggerating, or you have a job in the plants, or you have no means of coming with any bail at all. So again, I have no problem with it, and I don't think most people do have a problem with certainly ordinance violations, certainly lower level crimes, and certainly most misdemeanors. I do not think when it comes to domestic violence and issues like that there should be that option, but certainly the ability to pay should never be a reason why you are solely the inability to pay should never be a reason why you're solely held in the jail for a crime.
Thank you. And briefly, my second question is regarding the composition of the jury pool at Third Circuit. Do you have any feelings about that and just general understanding and
yes,
opinions about it?
Yes, this has been a problem since time immemorial. And it was less of a problem. I don't want to give a history lesson on Detroit Recorder's Court, but you sound very young. And back in the pre-1997, we had a court of criminal jurisdiction in the city of Detroit to just handle things that happened in the city of Detroit. And the jury pool was drawn just from the city of Detroit jurors. So not all the jurors, but the majority of jurors on any given case would be jurors of color. And a lot of people think the jurors of color are weaker on crime. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. They're tougher on crime than some other people are. And so back in 1992, there was a case that happened in the city of Detroit, and it was known as the Malice Green case. An African-American man was beat to death by 2 white police officers. And I was one of the prosecutors on that case. And I prosecuted that case the entire summer of 1993. And the reason I'm bringing it up is it's relevant to your question. That case, we were able to get convictions on those 2 officers for murder. And it still stands as one of the only, it was the first case of its kind, first case in the history of the United States where police officers were found guilty of murder. And remember, this is pre-cell phone. This was we didn't have it captured on video. We were able to get that conviction. It's very difficult to do. Well, as a result of that, Detroit lost its court of jurisdiction because people in Lansing said that the only reason these officers were found guilty was because they were majority Black jurors, and that just wasn't true. These jurors took 8 and 9 days respectively to make a decision. They deliberated very, very carefully and came to what I feel was the right decision, of course. And so because the Detroit Recorder's Court was legislatively created, it was created by the legislature to handle the felony cases in the city of Detroit, they could take it away legislatively, and that's what they did. And we fought and fought and fought. There were only 2 judges at the time this happened, because I had become a judge by 1997, and, excuse me, and only 2 of us stood up and worked in conjunction with the NAACP and others to try to stop them from being able to get rid of our court. But it was shuttered on September 30th, 1997, because of the verdict in that police beating case. And so when we had our Detroit Recorder's Court, we didn't have any problems having diverse juries and people of color on the juries. But when it became a Wayne County Circuit Court issue, we began to have issues. And there are many, many reasons for it. In fact, I was talking to a state senator just yesterday about the changes that they want to make in Lansing when it comes to jury pools. You can't just blame it on people not showing up. You have to look at systemic reasons why people don't show up. And you have to look at reasons why. It could be anywhere from my job is not going to pay me when I'm on jury duty to I don't have proper daycare or babysitters to help me be on juries, especially if it's going to be a long jury. And most of the juries in our courthouse are not that, they're less than a week. And all kinds of valid reasons why, but there's some people, there is a section that just doesn't want to come and doesn't show up. And so we have been working on this issue for such a long time. I remember Judge Deborah Thomas, who's still a judge in Third Circuit. She was very passionate about this issue for many years. When I was on the various court committees, when I was a judge, we were on committees to study this issue. And again, it's been a remaining issue. So I think finally what's going to happen is there's going to have to be legislation that deals with that. But it is a real problem. There's no question about it. It's not entirely a problem that is made by the system, so to speak. Some of it is people just are not showing up. But some of it is people just don't have access to the types of services that they need to be able to sit on juries for a period of time. So there's a number of issues that we're studying now. And hopefully there'll be some real meaningful change soon when it comes to this issue.
Thank you, and I appreciate the young compliment. I'm a year away from 50, so I guess it's relative.
It's still young.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Henry.
50
Can you
is
hear
the new,
me?
yeah, 50 is the
Hello?
new 30.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we
I
can
can.
hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Consuela Johnson. I'd like to say hello, Honorable McCormick. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My son was 19 at the time this happened. So it was about 19 years ago. He's 40 now.
Mhm.
And he was convicted of 4th-degree felony sexual assault on a minor when he was 20.
Okay,
He's been labeled a sexual predator ever since.
that's a misdemeanor, yeah.
He and his girlfriend had been dating, and he was at her house, and her father was a police officer who beat my son within an inch of his life. They did not have sex. The father and the mother were divorcing. The father burst into the house, cursing his daughter out, and then drug my son down to the police station. There was no DNA collected on either one of them. He has never been able to get a decent job since, and he wants to get this conviction expunged or forgiven. Who would I contact for the records of this case since there was no trial? And we need the records to get an accurate detail so that we can file a request. So who should I request or direct these to get these details that I need? I really need help.
So there's a couple of issues that I'm hearing. I'll have to find out. You hear there wasn't a trial, there wasn't a trial?
He
or
pleaded,
Okay.
4th degree. And we pleaded, the reason that we pleaded is because we were actually going up against a police officer who had issues. And the Detroit police are not too polite. So we pleaded just to,
How old was the young woman at the time?
she was 2 months from being 16.
Okay, so he was 19, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
And they had been dating for a year with the mother knowing and everything, and all of a sudden this happens. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's several issues with that. You know, we called that. Now he's older because we used to call a segment of the crime Romeo and Juliet type crimes was the name we called it. But that's when both of the man, the boy and the girl, I can call them because they were young. The man and the woman were very young, so the closer in age, like 16 and 17 or 15 and 16, that kind of thing. But once you became an adult, then there's a thing called statutory rape and other things that happen. But that doesn't sound like it was a case in this case, because if he was charged with criminal sexual conduct in the 4th degree, that's a high misdemeanor. And so there's several things we can do. I'm not taking notes. I hope somebody is on Commissioner's staff. But I don't want you to say it on this call, but if you can let them know your name and your phone number, I can make sure that we look that up for you to find out what happened. And that's once we know what happened and what the charges were and when this happened. What year was this?
It was in, I believe, 2000.
Okay, so that was before I was there.
No, I think we pleaded in 2001.
Yeah. Okay. So what I need, and I hope there's an ability for you to talk to someone. But if there's not, what I can do is my email address is kworthy, one word, KWORTHY @waynecounty.com. kworthy @waynecounty.com. And giving your name, your phone number, your son's information, his date of birth, what year this happened, And if that's why I don't want to say it on this call, the name of the victim, don't say it here, but in the email.
Okay.
And then how old she was at the time, all the details that you can recall at the time. And if you can do that, we can try to find this file for you and try to look and see what happened. Only then can we give you some direction about where you should go next.
Okay. Even if I paid an attorney, or I don't know if that makes a difference.
We can look up the information for you. There's nothing wrong with us doing that for you.
Okay.
And looking,
Okay.
I have no problem. I have no
I-
problem looking into this for you.
Thank you
And-
so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I was just going to say also, if you want to contact our office to follow up as well, we will do so. And you also mentioned expungement. Can you talk a little bit about that, Madam Prosecutor?
Yes. It's a little difficult this is a fast moving set of, in Lansing, there are many expungement bills that are up for consideration right now. And the statewide prosecutorial organization has been working very closely. We don't oppose most of those bills at all. And so right now, as it stands right this moment, there's certain types of crimes that you can expunge. For example, you can't expunge drunk driving cases. And I think you can understand why. You can expunge lower level felonies, and there's some assaultive cases. Most assaultive cases you can't expunge. And there are several moves afoot to expand the type of crimes that can be expunged, to expand the number of crimes that can be expunged, either both misdemeanor and felony. There are also bills that are up in Lansing that deal with giving everybody a completely new slate, depending on even if you were charged with a very serious crime. So there's there's all kinds of expungement bills that are under consideration right now. So I think the best thing to do is to call, and like I said, as a prosecutor, I do not oppose most of them. There are a few. There's one that I do oppose, that's in its current state, but they're working on that one as well. And so the best thing for you to do is call your state rep or your state senator, who will be much more familiar with it. And I also have a legislative liaison in my office as well. So if you want to email me at that address, at the email address I gave earlier, kworthy@waynecounty.com, I can also find out information for you. But the best thing for you to do is to talk directly with the folks that are going to be voting on these bills and who are writing these bills in Lansing. So whoever your state senator is, whoever your state rep is, get in contact with them to give you details of the bills in their current form, because they're changing rapidly.
Okay, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And you taking the time, you don't know how much this means to me, a mother, a Black mother. I'm not being prejudiced, but I am a Black mother with a Black son who has really had a hard time. So I just thank you so very, very much for caring.
Okay.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're very welcome.
Are there any other callers that have questions?
Madam Prosecutor,
Yes.
are you familiar with Judge Lipscomb's and Leona Lloyd's programs that they had for, I think Leona Lloyd had something before she passed for abused women. And I remember Judge Lipscomb, because I brought some kids into his courtroom,
Yes.
had something
very
for
familiar.
wayward teens. Did you talk
Yes.
about that already?
I sure will. Leona Lloyd is still alive. It's Leona Lloyd who died.
Leona Lloyd, right.
Yeah, Leona is still very much alive, and she did a fantastic drug court program. Was one of the first judges doing it in this area, and now many other district courts are doing it. Fantastic program, very successful program. Leona had a program with women, but the one that this really sticks out that I think you're referring to, Judge Lipscomb had a program called the Handgun Intervention Program. And what this program would, and when I was on the bench, I used to send people to this program all the time. And this program was designed to show people who were convicted of weapons offenses. They would be on probation, almost always on probation, which is if you don't have any other crime, then that's certainly more than appropriate. And that's what I used to sentence as well. And we would recommend, when I was as a prosecutor now, we even have expanded that program now. So what it was designed to do is show usually young men, but not all young men, young people usually, what the detriments are toward carrying a weapon. And so he would bring in trauma nurses, he would bring in ER doctors, he would bring in medical examiners. They would talk about what happens when gunplay goes awry, or when people are dealing with guns and gun wounds. And so it was kind of a scared straight for gun owners. for people who were illegally carrying handguns. And so it was very expected. I had heard about it, and as a judge, I was sentencing people to this program usually on a Saturday morning, and it usually started around 8 o'clock, and it would end about noon. And very involved. And I would sentence people that were convicted of gun possession offenses to go to this program. But I really didn't understand. I mean, I knew what it was, and I knew what he was doing, obviously, but I had never seen it from my own eyes. And he also used to bring in people who were victims of gun violence. And there was one person, I don't remember his name now, but he was in a wheelchair as a result of someone shooting him with a gun. And he used to come in, and he was very passionate about, instead of being angry, instead of feeling sorry for himself, he was very passionate about helping youth and steering them away from carrying illegal handguns. And that was all part of this program as well. But when I actually attended and started talking to and being a participant in his program, it was so eye-opening, so gut-wrenching, so to the point, so just mind-boggling about the work that he was doing with these young men. It was phenomenal. And he did it for a long, I don't know how long, I want to say at least over 10 years. And he would come in on a Saturday and run this program that really turned a lot of people away from being involved in crime.
Good.
Well, thank you again, Madam Worthy, for just coming and being a part this evening. I know it's a beautiful day outside, and you could have been elsewhere, but you're here with us, and we really appreciate it. I'll take one other question if there's any other questions. Anyone else out there? I want to make sure.
Hello, I have a question.
All right, and your name, please?
Hello, I'm William Champion, and hello to everybody.
Hello. Go
My
right ahead.
question is about the new facility. When will it be open, and in what way, with everything being in a simple complex, will that circumvent or speed anything up in terms of the court system?
I think it will. You know, Commissioner McCormick will probably answer this question better than me. What we were told is that before the pandemic, what we were told is sometime in 2021, we would be able to go over to the new facility. It will be a big help and a big, to have a facility altogether where it will be upgraded in terms of technology. Because right now, the Frank Murphy Justice is in some of the sheriff's departments, some of the other departments are so old that we have to spend big money just to retrofit our offices to be able to handle the current technology. So it would be all digital for one thing, which we don't have now by far, and much easier to conduct business. I don't know what the plans are now for what's going to happen. Perhaps the commission knows better than I do, but I know pre-pandemic they were talking about sometime in 2021.
Right, and there is, of course, some delay because of the construction with COVID and everything. And so we're still looking at 2021, but probably towards the end of 2021, if everything goes accordingly. So we're still working on it because there is definitely a need for a new jail.
All right, thank you.
All right, well, thank you again, Kim Worthy, Madam Prosecutor Worthy, for coming and participating in this Getting to Know Wayne County series. I think all the information that you shared today was very helpful for all of us to understand what Wayne County does, what the prosecutor does, and how you can help. As an elected official, you are here, and I'm here to help constituents with any issues that they have. And we have one young lady that will be getting in contact with you, and anything we can do to help you in that situation, in that area, just let us know. But thank you so much. Did you have any closing remarks?
No, I just want to thank you, Commissioner Baker McCormick, for having me here today, for being passionate about your job, for listening. I mean, when I come to the commission, you're always there listening, taking notes, asking me questions because I really try hard, as you know, to come to the commission, to come to various committees and let them know what my office is doing as well. So when I come at budget time and when I come with other needs, that's not the first time you've heard it. You've heard us talk about different issues for a long time. I want to thank you for your passion, for your voice, for having me. And I look forward to working with you on the issue of domestic violence and any other issue you would like to partner about.
Yes, and definitely I am very passionate about domestic violence. There was a young lady in my district. She attended school with my daughters, both my daughters at Cass Tech. Just last year, you probably remember Miss Arnold. She was pregnant and
I do. Yes.
Yes. And I am really wanting to look at how we can help in that effort and making sure that tragedies like that don't occur again. So I really look forward to speaking with you and working with Trish on that initiative. Okay.
Yep. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll go right into the update, and let me just change the spotlight here. We will go right into the District 6 update, and we will also take questions. This will take about 10 minutes. We won't be too much longer here. First, I want to just again thank you all for coming and attending this virtual meeting. I want to just discuss a couple of things that we are working on. Most of you know about the War on Trash initiative. We are still focused on that initiative. This summer, we are looking at hiring 2 interns to help us, students, to help us with that initiative. So if you know of anyone that lives, it has to be a student that lives a high school student that lives in our district to work with our War on Trash initiative. We also are trying to promote clean and green neighborhoods through the War on Trash initiative. You know, our slogan is "Don't Stop and Drop." We want to make sure that those that will take a yard sign, we'll have yard signs that basically states that we're fighting this war on trash and we want our neighborhoods clean. So if you are interested in a yard sign, please contact our office and let us know. We will gladly drop one off to you. Thank you to my staff who is on the call right now. Michael Richard, he is the community person, so he would be the person that brings to you the yard sign, or if you have any questions related to the War on Trash, you can reach out to him as well. And then we have Linda Allen, who is the administrator, and she does a lot of the calls. When you call in, she takes care of you in that way. So feel free to give myself or my team a call. The phone number, and I'll give you that very quickly, is 313-224-0884. 313-224-0884. In addition, I have sponsored many resolutions. The latest resolution that talked to bullying, we wanted to make sure that our students, our young people, aren't being bullied in school. And then just last week, we sponsored a resolution that supports women veterans. We honor them on June 12th for their service to our country. On June 12th, 1948 was the date in which women were allowed to join the military. So we honored women veterans over the weekend, and we will continue to work with the veterans as I am the chair of the Veterans Special Committee for Veterans and Seniors. So that was another initiative or resolution that we worked on. We also had a resolution for National Disability Month, making sure that our employers are looking to employ those with disabilities. They're just as able as anyone else to do the work, and we just have to be more open to it. We also have a very, very special initiative that I am so proud of. It's the very first Wayne County Commission Youth Council. So we're going to be working with young people throughout Wayne County. Each commissioner, there's 15 commissioners. Each of us will get to choose 2 high school students to work with through the year to make sure that they understand Wayne County government, how it works, the legislative process. Also, we will work on various projects with them so that we understand what they want as well as young people. So I'm very excited about that initiative. You will hear more as the months goes on. And so because we're starting that youth council, we started in September. So you will get information on that. And I think that is all that I have to give you an update on. Are there any other questions? And I guess I did miss that we did do a resolution for the coronavirus for increased testing and also mental health to increase the budget for mental health because we know that with COVID, it wasn't just a physical issue that devastated our community, but it's also a mental issue that will have a lasting impact on our community. So we, again, have increased funding for mental health around the COVID issue.
Commissioner, this is going to be your second year on the War on Trash. Can you tell them a little bit about the War on Trash, the areas that you cover?
Sure. The War on Trash initiative was started almost right out the gate when I became commissioner in January 2019. And it is focused on loving where we live, making sure that we have a clean neighborhood, cleaning up the entryways into our community. So we ordered about 50 trash cans and placed them throughout the district, but in strategic locations along the freeway. And we wanted it there because, again, that's where you enter into the neighborhood. And we wanted to make sure that when someone comes into our neighborhood, they're coming into a clean neighborhood. And so, well, in addition to that, we also worked with 5 schools in the area because we thought it was important to have our young people understand that they have to take care of where they live too, and not to stop and drop. Don't stop and drop is our slogan. And so we had students in the school that worked with us on that initiative. And so we want to continue pressing on with the war on trash. making sure that we keep our neighborhoods clean and green. And we do know that there is a correlation between crime and trash. So where there is more trash, there's more crime. And so we thought that this would be a very important initiative. And this year, again, we will look at working with 2 students interns this summer to help in that initiative. And so that's a little bit about the War on Trash. So if you know any young people that might be interested, please have them contact our office. Are there any other questions? No other questions, and no questions in the chat. All right. Well,
Commissioner, I'm sorry.
you.
Commissioner,
Oh.
were you going to talk about grants also? Did I see that in the email?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
say that again.
Something about grants in the email. And maybe I missed it. I'm not sure. Did you already talk about that?
Are you referring to the McCormick report? Is that
Yes.
what you? So that wasn't part of this meeting, but just to give you a little snippet of what that grant is about.
Commissioner, I have to hop off. I got to go feed my children. It's getting late, but it was my pleasure to be. It's my pleasure to be a part of this. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for attending.
My absolute pleasure.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the grant is for small businesses that Wayne County is going to offer. It will be $50 million worth of grants. And I wanted to make sure that I gave out that information, but it has not been approved by the commission yet. And in the last email communication, I just wanted you to put that on your radar, because a lot of the times when those grant applications come out, we're not prepared for applying, or we don't have our things or our duck in order. And so we want to make sure that that you at least have that on your radar. So we will look at, or at least it's coming to the commission for approval next week. And on Friday, if it's approved, then I will be sending out communication immediately on that.
Can you just give us a little bit of insight of, what I won't hold you to it, but what you expect, will be involved in that? I'm a small business owner and certainly had trouble with PPP. And, I just have concerns about how it's organized. And I suspect that it hasn't been approved yet because you're negotiating to get the best, situation for the businesses that'll be hopefully able to.
Yes, and again, I don't have all of the details. At this point, what I do know is that we do have COVID stimulus dollars that are going to be offered to small businesses. And again, it's about $50 million. The other thing is that we will have it available to businesses under 50 employees. Now, I do know that. And so we're looking to help the smaller businesses, because that was the complaint with the other grant dollars and loan dollars, is that we weren't giving those dollars or helping smaller businesses. So that's what we're looking at right now. And that's what I'm fighting for, the smaller businesses.
I knew you would too. So thank you very much. Appreciate you.
No problem. Any other questions before we close out? No other questions? Well, again, go right ahead.
The email address.
Our email address is Baker, Baker, McCormick, McCormick at waynecounty.com. Again, Baker McCormick staff. I'm sorry, did I miss staff? Baker McCormick staff at waynecounty.com. You can email us there, or you can call us at 313-224-0884. Okay, is there any other questions or comments? Well, if there's no other questions or comments, I really appreciate, again, you all taking your time on time out on this beautiful sunny day to come to our Getting to Know Wayne County series. And we'll have our next one on July 20th, and we will feature Wayne County